boys and girls. How are you doing today? I have Anna and Elsa with me today, and they are going to listen to our story. It's an exciting book called Papa and the Pioneer Quilts. It's about a family who lived long ago. The families that lived long ago were called pioneer families. And as you see, they traveled in wagons pulled by horses or cows or bulls, and the children walked and played along as they went from place to place. Let's hear more about this interesting story. It's written by Jean Van Leuven, and the illustrations are by Rebecca Bond. So here we go. Are you comfortable? Are you ready? Papa and the Pioneer Quilt. Okay, this is Papa, and we are going to read. My Papa has wandering feet. That's what Mama always says. Those feet have taken us to a lot of places, from Pennsylvania, where I was born, to Ohio, and then all the way to Indiana, where Jacob joined the family, and then Missouri. Our little baby Susanna was born there. So here is Papa, and Mama said he had wandering feet. Wandering feet means he likes to go to so many different places. Now, Papa's feet have been wandering again. This time, way out west to a place called Oregon. Say that with me, Oregon. And it's in the west. I didn't want to go. I loved our little farm and my pet calf named Dolly. And Grandma was living not too far away. But Papa said, I hear they have good land out there, the finest a man could want. And Mama said, we have to go, Rebecca. That's Papa's dream. So they started to pack up all their belongings in the wagon pulled by the cattle. So they started out one early spring by wagon train. Trouble was, my feet looked like they had been worn out before we got there. I walked along beside the wagon, 10, 12, sometimes 15 miles a day. That's a very long distance. And we still didn't get to where we reached, and my shoes were getting all scuffed up before we even got to Kansas. It was a long, long walk. Sometimes they did ride in the wagon, but the wagon was filled with their belongings, so they also had to walk long distances along slowly as they went from place to place. Sometimes Rachel walked beside me. She is a special friend. In fact, she is a new bride. She smiled all the time, even though she had just one thing. She had a metal copper kettle. One noon when we stopped for dinner, she showed me what was inside her kettle. Can you guess what was inside her kettle? Okay, let's see. Little scraps of fabric or cloth. That's all. Why would she put that in the kettle? Normally we put tea in the kettle, right? Well, it's just old bits of this and that, she said. And I'm going to start to make a quilt with it. And here are the pieces of fabric or cloth that she had in her kettle. I like that, turning old bits of this and that into something new. Maybe I thought I could make a quilt too, so I asked Mama. By the way, what is a quilt? Do you know? Actually, it's a special blanket that is made from different pieces of material that are sewed together. I will show you later. So, Mom said, that's a wonderful idea. You collect the scraps of cloth. Together, we will sew the new quilt. Mama gave me a string bag. The first thing I put into it was the handkerchief Grandma gave me when we left. That handkerchief was the only thing in my quilt bag for a while, until one day we crossed the river. So while traveling, they had to cross a river, and the river looks deep and wide. And something happened. Let's see what happened. Oh, that river water was flowing fast. Papa tried to hold on to the oxen as they were crossing, but he was pushed under. Next thing we knew, the river carried him away. Ah, how terrible. Papa, cried Jacob. Do you think Papa is going to be safe? 3 men pulled him out and laid him on the shore. He lay so still, my heart pounded, and Jacob started to cry. See, Jacob is crying, the men pulled him out, and there's Papa lying so still. What do you think is going to happen next? Then Papa opened his eyes, and he was all right, sitting up all right. But not his shirt. His shirt had ripped from the top to bottom. See? And even Mama couldn't sew it up again. So I got it as a scrap cloth for my quilt bag. Rachel told me stories about her scraps. This one is from my daddy's old coat, and this one is the bonnet I wore to church. A bonnet is a little cloth hat that you wear. And she said, I got this from Mama's apron, and from my brother's Isaac breeches or pants when the dog bit him. And her eyes were sometimes sad and sometimes glad about the different stories she told me where she got the different pieces of quilts cloth. So she said, we've decided to make a quilt so that we remember everything that happened. And so I said to her, I got Papa's shirt that has been torn when he came out of the river, and I'm going to share a piece of it with you. So they shared pieces of quilt cloth, so they both had more to add to their quilt bag and kettle. A few weeks later, they got to a place called Nebraska. Say that, Nebraska. Do you see the wagon train? Yes, other families were traveling along with them on their wagons. A new family joined our wagon train. It had 7 girls, and one of them, Mattie, was near my age. It was so nice to have a friend. I know you like your friends, and you miss them because we are not at school together. So Mattie and I watched the little ones together. We looked for prairie dogs, which are little animals, and we talked about home, and we talked about all the things we like to do together. One day we found a whole field of bluebells. These are the pretty blue flowers called bluebells, and she's here with her new friend, and they're watching the younger children. So we picked big bunches to decorate the wagon and to put even in our hair. Do you see some on her hair? Yes, see? And I placed a crown of buttercup on Susanna's head, but she didn't like it. Oh, she threw it away. I guess she was too little to enjoy that. Mattie walked with me through all of Wyoming to where the trail split off for California. There we sadly waved goodbye. Wait, she came running back, pushing her bonnet into my hand. Keep it for your quilt, she said. So there she is with her little bonnet, like a little hat. And she shared that so that the next child will remember her all the time. Do you remember that next child's name? Okay. My pesky brother Harrison could never sit still. He'd fallen out of the wagon 3 times. Can you believe it? The last time was the worst. The wagon behind us ran right over his foot. Papa said it wasn't broken, and Mama hugged him close. Then she saw his breeches all in tatters. You scamp, she scolded. How are we going to keep you in clothes till we get to Oregon? So I got something else for my quilt bag. She got little torn breeches or pants. At last we reached the mountains. Everyone had to get out of their wagons and walk to lighten the load for the oxen. So when the oxen were going uphill, it was so hard. You see how they look so tired because they're pulling the wagon up, 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 up. And so to lighten the load, all the people got off the wagon and had to walk up the hill. So the poor oxen were so tired. Papa coaxed them, he pushed and pulled, but it was no use for a little while. We need to lighten their load still more, he said. So we left a trunk of Mama's good china beside the trail, and Mama cried. See, the trunk of China means dishes that they ate food uh, and enjoyed, but now they would have to do without that. But we made it over the mountains. On the way down, we came upon another broken wagon, its contents all strewn about. There, the oxen must have given out, Papa said sadly. They'll have to go the rest of the way on foot. Oh dear, such a long, long walk. The family could have been us, I thought. I looked at the pretty tablecloth. It's all right, Mama said. You can take it. No one will be coming back for it. So my quilt bag was starting to fill up. As I walked, I could feel every stick and stone beneath my feet. My shoes were worn so thin. Will we ever get to Oregon? I asked Papa. Soon, soon, he said. We trudged on up more mountains and across mountains and waded through the streams and then downhill again. One morning the wagon covers were dusted with snow. Oh dear, it was getting very cold. It was winter time and they needed more warm clothes to keep warm during that winter time. But about noon, I saw something through the trees. I was wondering if we'd have to stay out in the cold for long, but I was surprised. Spread out below us in the sunshine was a wide, green, beautiful valley. Is that Oregon? I asked. Yes, said Papa. At last they had reached the place where they were going, Oregon. Mama hugged me. She was so glad. The men were happy. Some of the ladies did dances. Rachel was smiling wider than ever. The men threw their hats in the air, and we all shouted for joy. So after 6 months of traveling, we were in Oregon. One last thing went into my quilt bag, the dress I wore during the journey. It was worn and torn and mended. It wasn't so good anymore, but there were some scraps left. So I put that dress into my quilt bag. We had a cabin now, or a little house made of wood. It had been built by Papa and some of the men. And we had 40 acres of land. That's a big, big field. The finest land Papa had ever seen, he said. We worked all day, and at night, Mama and I sewed our quilts pieces together. Mama said it would tell the story of our long, long journey. The pattern is called Wandering Foot, she said. I wasn't sure I liked that. I don't want Papa's feet to wander anymore, I said. Maybe they won't, she said, smiling. We're almost near the ocean. We have run out of places to journey. So, my quilt was soon finished. And so far, Papa's feet have stayed put. He didn't go anywhere else. I'm hoping really hard that we will stay in this new cabin. Here you have the picture of the lovely quilt that he made together with her mom. You can see different pieces of cloth. Here's a different piece, perhaps some the breeches or pants, a dress, and all the different pieces, a tablecloth, and they made a quilt together. And she loved her quilt, and it kept her warm during the snowy winter nights. The end. Here's a picture of another quilt. Okay, boys and girls, I have little scraps like our pioneer family who built the quilt, and I'm going to show you how they put the scraps together to make a nice quilt pattern. I have 2 different colors which I'm using today. So I'm going to start with the blue, and then I'm going to join it. So I have a pink, then a blue. Sorry, I have a blue, then pink, and then another blue. So they sewed the pieces together, and then they made a lovely pattern. They started with a pink. Sometimes they have to sew along here, and then a blue, which they would sew here and here, so it would be added on to this piece and this piece. And last in this row, pink, which was sewed on here and here. So you see it's getting bigger and they are different colors. One last row, we have a blue piece added here, which they sewed together. A pink one here and here, and last a blue. And so they made a quilt pattern. Now boys and girls, you saw how we made the quilt using the squares. And so in your packet, you're gonna find a coloring page with a quilt. I want you to color the squares and pieces nicely to make your own quilt pattern. And on the other side, you also have another one that you can make showing all the wonderful pieces that would have been sewn together. Have fun coloring. Make sure that you do your best work. I have another picture here of the wagon that the family traveled in. I know you will have fun coloring this also. You can write a sentence about the picture, and you can leave this part white because usually the wagon tops had white covers. So boys and girls, we learned about the pioneer family today, and our book showed us how they traveled all the way to Oregon and had fun and some hard times while traveling. Okay boys and girls, we are going to look at pioneer life in this video. I hope you enjoy it.
Children 100 years ago played, lived, and went to school.
Well, excellent. My name is Miss Kim, and I'd like to welcome you to the Old Davies School Historical Museum. We're going to learn about what life was like 100 years ago right here in Florida. Wow. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Great. Come on.
Well, welcome to our Pioneer House. A pioneer is somebody who does something for the first time. So the families that we're learning about today were some of the first families to farm where we are right now. So we're going to take a look at the type of house that they built 100 years ago.
We're going to see how they lived. Do you think their rooms might look different than your house? You think so? Let's find out. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm inside.
Come on inside. All right, so if we take a look around, we'll see things that are different from our houses today. If you look up, we don't have any lights on in here. But there's no electricity in the house 100 years ago. If they needed light where it was dark, they'd have a lamp, they would light that, and that would give them enough light to see. And if you look around, it's not a very big house, but 4 or 5 people would have lived here.
What do you notice about this house that's different from your house? It's made out of
wood, and some of the walls and the roof are made out of tin. And I only see one bed. Where do you think they slept?
On the floor.
On the floor. Sometimes the kids curled up on the floor.
There's no bathroom.
Not inside of the house.
They went outside to do it?
It was called the outhouse.
Oh my goodness. Children in pioneer times had a lot of chores to do around their home, like sweeping, helping to cook, and doing laundry.
Years ago, kids helped their families on the farm by doing chores. Some of the chores they had were helping in the vegetable garden, washing clothes, milking the cow, and helping to make butter, which is what we're going to get to do today. Do you guys like butter?
Yeah!
Excellent. To make butter, first you have to milk the cow. And from that milk, you get cream. And that's what's inside your jars right now. We're going to shake, shake, shake that cream, and that cream is going to split into the solid butter and the liquid buttermilk. Can you guys listen to it? Do you hear the liquid in there right now?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to keep shaking, and it's going to turn into a solid.
By shaking the cream in a jar, we converted it from a liquid to a solid.
One of the chores the kids helped their family do was bringing in the water for the cooking, the cleaning, and the wash. So you'd bring your bucket out to your well. We have our well pump right here. And you would pump the water just like this until your bucket was full, and you'd have to carry it inside and start all over again.
So they had no running water?
No running water inside their house, not in the bathroom, not in the kitchen. You would drink water right from the well like this.
Are you thirsty?
Yeah.
Great, let's pump some water. Do you want to be the first one? Okay.
So this is where kids went to school 100 years ago.
Wow, 100 years ago.
Do you guys like to see what the classroom looked like?
Yes.
When the teacher rings the school bell, that means it's time for class. You gotta be sitting up tall, hands crossed on your desk. This is what the class looked like 100 years ago. And in this classroom, you see the great big windows that let in lots of light and lots of air, too. No electricity in this school. And they learned lots of the same things that we learn at school today. Do you learn about reading at school?
Yeah.
Do you learn about numbers and math at school? Excellent. Do you learn about writing?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, they practice writing with chalk first. And once you learned your letters, we got to use the dip pen in the classroom. So we're going to get to practice that type of pen today.
Wow. What do you usually write your name with when you're at school? A pencil.
And when you put that pencil on the paper, you can keep writing. This type of pen, you're going to have to dip it into the ink, write a little bit, dip into the ink again, write a little bit, back and forth until you're all done.
Would you like to give it a try?
Yeah.
Let's play an old-fashioned game. We're going to play musical chairs.
Wow, who knows how to play musical chairs? Tell me, how do you play?
We walk around them.
You walk around the chairs, and then what happens when the music stops?
Somebody has to find a chair.
Everyone finds a chair.
Oh, no.
Okay, boys and girls, I hope you learned a lot from our lesson today about pioneer life. I know you enjoyed the story, you understood about the quilt, and you also look at the video about how they lived long ago. So until next time, take care. Bye.